Having customers come in with check engine light complaints is a common occurrence, isn't it? In order to repair that problem, we need a tool, a scan tool, to access the information that the ECM has stored. Now, while it might be nice to have a high-end tool or even a factory-level tool, it's not entirely necessary when solving the majority of DTCs set by the ECM. Stick around, I'll show you why that is in this edition of the Trainer. Last time on the Trainer, we talked a little bit about the role of the engine control module and how it oversaw the various engine management systems that it was in charge of with an eye on emissions. So if something happened in any of those monitored systems that would cause the emissions level to rise beyond what the vehicle was certified for, it needs to set a code. It needs to let the driver know there's a problem and to give it some idea of exactly what the problem was by choosing that particular code. And we talked a little bit about how those tests were performed by the ECM in order to do that job, to keep an eye on all those systems. Today we're going to talk a little bit about accessing the information afterward. Now, your shop may have a variety of scan tools on hand, from OE level tools on down to little pocket code readers, but I'm willing to bet that nearly all of them are certified to OBD II protocol, Global OBD II. If that's the case, it doesn't really matter which one you pick up. You'll be able to access the same information with any one of them. And in the majority of cases, when you're solving a DTC issue, you'll be able to solve it with the information in Global OBD II all by itself. Now, to help you unravel the complexities of OBD II, we're going to start this session by looking at the first 5 modes. Well, Pete, 5 modes, what are you talking about? Well, OBD II has a number of diagnostic options in it. Many of them you're already familiar with, but there are 10 total different modes in Global OBD II. All of them have some usefulness when it comes to diagnosing a problem. And if you're not using it to its full power, maybe you're missing out on some opportunities that you could have had to fix that car or to cut your diagnostic time down. So what I want to help you do is take a look at those 5 modes, and well, all 10, but we're going to focus on the first 5 today, so that you'll have a better understanding of what they are, what they do, and how you can apply them to a diagnostic situation. All right, let's get started. Okay, let's start off with mode 1. This is one that you're already familiar with, I'm sure. Mode 1 is where we go look at live data on the car. And that's maybe what you see on your scan tools. Just may say current data or data stream. The nomenclature is going to vary a little bit from tool to tool. But it's technically called mode 1, and you'll notice that it uses a $ in front of the number, $01. Don't let that throw you off, at least not yet. All that means is that this is a hexadecimal number. It's used in computer programming, and it will come into play when we look at some of the other modes a little further on down the program. But mode 1 is also where you'll find the status of the monitors. Remember, we talked a little bit about monitors last time on the Trainer. Monitors are those subgroupings of tests, whether one test or multiple tests, that are focused on a particular subsystem on the vehicle. For example, oxygen sensors, the catalytic converter it may be one, and others, but we'll get into that in more detail too as we go along. The next mode I want to talk about is mode 2. Mode 2 is freeze frame data. Now, freeze frame data has some standardized PIDs in it. Here you see a list of them here: calculated load, engine RPM, short and long-term fuel trims, fuel pressure if it's available, vehicle speed, engine coolant temperature, intake manifold pressure, mass airflow, loop status, whether it's an open or closed loop, manifold absolute pressure, what the code was that responsible for turning on the mill, and if it is a misfire, the cylinder ID if that's possible. Now, this is a short list. As time has gone on and CAN has been introduced in vehicles, a lot of scan tools will offer, or a lot of manufacturers rather, will offer much more than this basic list. It's gotten so much better over the years that you may see a lot more PIDs available to you, and we'll take a look at a few examples when we go to the scan tools themselves and take a look at those. Now, one thing I want to point out here with freeze frame data. Freeze frame data is set after the ECM decides to turn on the check engine light. So there might be a small millisecond delay. And one thing we can't tell from freeze frame data is what the conditions are that the vehicle was operating at the time. I don't know, for example, if this vehicle was accelerating or decelerating or maintaining a steady speed. So when I'm using this data to help me diagnose a problem, it's a point in time, but I need to kind of factor in conditions that may be occurring before or after that point in time to help mimic or recreate that problem, okay? The other thing I want to point out about freeze frame data is that it's most valuable for those continuous monitors. If you remember the continuous monitors that we talked about last time, the misfire, fuel system, comprehensive component monitors, these are monitored all the time or continuously while the vehicle is up and running. Misfire is a great example. That misfire could be occurring at idle, or it could be occurring at highway speeds. It could be occurring when it's under load. It could be occurring when it's decelerating. This is the information that's going to help us make that determination so we can actually recreate and fix that problem. If you look at freeze frame data for the non-continuous monitors, say for an evap system monitor, it's really not that much of a help, at least that's my opinion, because it's only going to show me the test conditions that needed to happen in order for that particular section of the monitor to complete itself. So I'm not too concerned about looking at freeze frame when I'm dealing with a non-continuous monitor code. The other thing I want to point out is I see way too many techs. They go and check the code and they automatically clear the code. Well, don't do that, because once you clear the code, you're going to wipe all that information out. And you may need that to help you fix that car. Don't clear anything until you're actually ready to test drive the car and verify the repair that you made. Let's move on. The next mode we're going to talk about is mode 3. Mode 3 is another one that you probably the very first thing you do when you connect your scan tool in the car. That's when you're actually checking to see why the check engine light's on. These are the codes that turn the light on the vehicle. The reason the ECM turned the malfunction indicator or the check engine light on. Now there are two types of codes. Type A are one-trip codes. What does that mean? If you have a severe misfire, you may have seen the point where the misfire is bad, but not bad enough to cause the mill light to flash. But as soon as that misfire is detected, it's going to turn the light on the very first go-round. A two-trip code is not going to turn the light on until the second consecutive test also fails. You with me on that? And most of the codes that you're dealing with on the car are type B or two-trip codes. So let me say that one more time. A two-trip code is a code where it's failed to test once, that is stored in the ECM's memory as a failure, but not turning the light on until the second consecutive test is made. If that one fails, then the light is turned on. If it's a continuous monitor, like a misfire or fuel system problem, it's going to have to be the second consecutive failure under the same load and RPM conditions as the first one. Let's move on to mode 4. Mode 4, again, very common one that's in use. This is where we go to clear the codes, turn that check engine light off. It's going to clear any mature DTCs that are in history. It's going to turn the engine light off. It's going to clear the freeze frame. In some cases, it may also clear all the monitor tests and set those back to not ready or incomplete, where they have to start from scratch again. This is one thing you want to make sure that, again, that you don't clear or turn off that check engine light until you're absolutely sure you're done and that you're ready to make that test drive and verify that repair. Otherwise, you could be losing some very valuable information. All right. Next one we want to hit, mode 5. Mode 5 are the test results or group of individual test results that make up the oxygen sensor monitor. Now, this is more common in older OBD2 cars, those that are not equipped with the CAN protocol. If the vehicle is a CAN car, the controller area network bus protocol, then you're going to find that information in mode 6. That's some stuff that we'll get into the next time on the trainer. So there's a short summary. There are your 5 modes. Let's take a look at some of them on the scan tool. Okay, the first one that we're going to use is the Snap-on Virus. Again, I'm not going to be able to show you every scan tool that's on the market, but I'm going to try to show you a couple of different ones. I just want you to see that, yes, number one, it is available on all of them. How it's laid out and the terms may be a little bit different, but if you understand what the modes are, you'll be able to find them and use them on whatever tool that you have in your hand. Again, I want to stress that There are a lot of times when you need a high-end tool like the Virus and others, especially if you're going to do anything on any of the controllers other than the ECM, because you need that ability for enhanced data, the bidirectional controls and so forth to help you diagnose issues that may take a little bit more work. But I also want to say that, again, the majority of the DTCs, the ECM-related DTCs that I took care of as a full-time technician, I was able to successfully repair using nothing more than the Global OBD II modes. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Snap-on first. We're going to choose OBD II Direct, generic OBD II, and then we'll go into OBD II Diagnose. Start communication with the vehicle. Okay, we see we have number of ECUs detected 1. It's a CAN protocol has been identified. So now we'll just move on. And here we go. Now we talked again, readiness monitors, do you remember what that was? That's part of mode 1, but you see here specifically lists. $01, that's the hexadecimal number, display current data. Let's just see what's available here. Now this is a 2013 Ram pickup, still the same vehicle that we've been using for our guinea pig. And you see that we have quite a list to choose from here. I mean, there's a lot more than the basics that we looked at in our slide presentation a few minutes ago. And that's not unusual, especially with the CAN vehicles, the newer vehicles. There's a lot more to choose from. But what I want to point out here is there's no need for you to have all of them refreshing at the same time. It takes some time for the scan tool to communicate with the ECM, and it's pretty much like going down the list. It's asking the ECM, okay, how about short-term fuel trim bank 1S1? And the ECM says, here's the number. Okay, how about short-term fuel trim bank 1S2? Okay, here's the number. And it's going down the list that way. So it can take a while, if you're looking for accurate current information, for that scan tool to populate all that information. Better pick the PIDs that you want to look at related to the problem that you're trying to diagnose. For example, fuel trims are something I like to look at all the time. So I'm going to pick the fuel trims for sure. But am I really going to care much about mill status? No, I don't need to take my time asking the computer if the mill's on or not. I know it is, that's why it's in my shop. So pick the ones you want. That's going to help the refresh rates pick up, and will help you get some more current, accurate data, and maybe help you see something that falls out of whack if you're going to graph the data later on. Mode 2, freeze frame. Okay, we probably won't have any freeze frame in this one. There's no code set. We'll see what the tool tells us. Okay, so there's no freeze frame of data available here, but just like we saw before, we'll get a listing of different PIDs when we do have a code set to help us identify what the conditions were at the time of the failure. Now mode 3, display trouble codes. Now remember, these are only the matured codes, so it's either a 1-trip code or it's the second occurrence of a 2-trip code. Okay, currently no DTCs present. Okay, mode 4, clear emissions related data. Again, that's something where I'm sure you've all been before. But notice what it says here. This service will clear all diagnostic data, codes, freeze frame, and test results. Like my buddy G. Trulli likes to say, if you clear your codes before you've accessed all the possible information you might need to fix the car, it's like pouring bleach down on a crime scene. You're going to wipe all the evidence out, and then it's too late. You'll never retrieve it again. So don't clear anything until you're ready to take that test drive and verify the repair that you made. Until then, leave it alone. That way you'll always have access to it. Take the screenshot of it, take a picture of it with your phone, whatever you got to do so that you don't lose that valuable information. Now lastly, you're going to see here there is no mode 5 listed on this screen. Now why is that? Pete, didn't you just say that all the Global OBD II stuff is the same? Well, it is, but remember what I also said, that on CAN equipped vehicles, like our guinea pig here, it's incorporated in mode 6. So we'll just take a quick look there. And there you go. You can see that right at the bat, bank 1, sensor 1, O2 sensor, bank 1, sensor 2. Of course, sensor 1 is the sensor closest to the engine, and sensor 2 is the one on the other side of the catalytic converter downstream from the engine. And we have, of course, bank 2 S1, bank 2 S2. There's my, what would be my mode 5 on a non-CAN vehicle. That's the information here. Now, not saying that these are the same tests that mode 5 used. That's one thing I want you to keep in mind with any of these modes now, is that the parameters, the testing methods are becoming increasingly more stringent and increasingly more complex as the need to maintain emissions and increase fuel economy goes up. So you really have to do your homework. It's something we talked about before. You really have to do your homework when you're looking at these DTCs. What's the criteria? What are the standards? What's going to suspend testing if there's another problem? You need to do your homework first. So don't just assume that these are the same on every vehicle or every make, right? Okay. So that's the first 5 on this particular tool. Let's try another one. Okay, let's move on to a different scan tool, just so that you can see that even though the name might change slightly, the elements, those modes for Global OBD2 are still available for your use. Okay, notice here there are 2 modes or 2 titles here for mode 1. Like I said, it does 2 things really. It gives us the status of the readiness monitors, and it also gives us live data. Let's try the live data mode. It said we were going to have 45 PIDs. Let's see if it's what it shows us. And yeah, again, quite a bit to choose from. But just like we said before, there's no need to look at every single one of them right off the bat. Pick the ones that you want. For example, we'll take some fuel trims, numbers. Don't want to forget the long term. Get those. And once I have those picked, I can go ahead and pull them up. And it's going to help me with the refresh rate. So this is going to make things a lot easier when I'm trying to find something in particular. All right, so back out of that. Mode 2, again, freeze frame data. It's saying not supported, but we know, of course, there's nothing there. There's no DTC set, so not supported doesn't mean like it does with the monitors. It is a supported function. There's just nothing there to show. Mode 3. This is actually listing mode 3, mode 7, and mode 10, all under read fault codes. Why? Well, you're going to have to wait till the next episode to get a clarification on that. And we're going to go with the generic. Read the current DTC. That's the mode 3. That's the one that's turned the light on. And we'll check that. Okay, no fault code stored. We're good there. We'll back out of that. Mode 4, again, clear fault codes. Here's that warning again. It will clear all the emissions related diagnostic information. So we don't want to do that until we're absolutely sure we have everything we need to fix this car. Right? Don't pour bleach on your crime scene, like my buddy G likes to say. So we're not going to clear that yet. And then again, notice there's no mode 5 listed. Why? Because it's here in mode 6. And the exhaust gas sensor monitors right there at the top. See, it's throwing me off there because we don't call it that, do we? That's the oxygen sensor monitors, bank 1 S1. But here's the kicker. $sign, remember the mid number we saw before? $01, mid 1, mid 2, mid 5, mid 6, just like we saw on the Snap-on tool. So again, it's kind of the same but not the same, right? So don't let that throw you off. Again, if be confident. If it's the data is supposed to be there, it's there under Global OBD2. Don't let the little name things throw you off. Got one more tool I want to show you. Okay, now here's the close-up of the screen for the Automotive Test Solution tool. Again, let's start with looking for mode 1. Now, remember what we said mode 1 was? Mode 1 was actually 2 things. It was the status of the monitors, so that's here. And it's also current data. Well, that would be under PIDs, parameter identifiers. So let's check the monitors first, see what information we have. And you can see here I've got a listing of the monitors down here in the bottom right. The green light means that they're all complete. If they're not lit at all, they're kind of shaded out, it means that they're not supported on this vehicle. And that's not unusual. There's no secondary air system, for example, on this pickup. Now if it would be marked red, that means that it's not complete. That's something I probably want to know about. Now, on to data, current data, PIDs. And just like on the other tool, you can see we have quite a list to choose from. And much of that data is already checked off, and that's because you see it over here. Now, we don't have an exact number here. We can make that selection, but we're just very simple. We can see green, red, yellow. Green, good. Yellow, not so good. Red, definitely not good. That's a nice feature for that tool to really catch your eye to something, you know, when you're first taking a look at these PIDs. Okay, mode 2. Mode 2 is freeze frame data. Let's see where that is. Right under DTCs, there's the freeze frame data. Okay, again, there's no codes present, so there's no freeze frame. This is also where we go to the next mode, mode 3. Read DTCs and pending DTCs. We can go ahead and hit that one again if we want. There's nothing to read, no present. What are no pending codes? We'll get to that next time we get together on the trainer. And last, it's all in the same place, mode 4, clear DTCs. What about mode 5? Well, that was the oxygen sensor, wasn't it? So let's try up here at O2. Now, this is for non-CAN vehicles, right? Because the CAN vehicles, like we said, are in the mode 6 data. So this would apply to a non-CAN vehicle, and it would show the tests that are incorporated, and this actually shows you what those test parameters are. Okay, well, there are some examples of the first 5 modes of OBD2 on a couple of different scan tools. I want you to notice that while the information wasn't identical, it was all there on all 3 tools. Like we said, the way it's laid out, the names that might be used are not going to be identical from scan tool to scan tool, but if it's certified to Global OBD2, it is going to be there. I also want to stress that, again, investing in a high-end tool is certainly worthwhile when you need to tackle a lot of other problems in the vehicle, but if you're just getting into the business and you're on a budget, rest assured that if you invest in a Global OBD2 scan tool, you'll be able to handle the majority of the emissions-related DTCs that come into your bay. I've solved many of them for years using nothing more than the 10 modes that we're looking at now. So speaking of the 10 modes, that's the first 5. The next time we get together, we'll look at the other 5, modes 6 through 10, and following that, we'll actually start building on what we've learned so far and creating a diagnostic process that you can apply when your customer brings you that check engine light concern. All right, so until then, it's Pete Meyer, Motor Age Magazine. See you next time.